AltaVista, the highest view in contractor marketing.
If you're not listening to The Angle, you will surely fall behind.
Are you going to exist in your space, or are you going to dominate?
Trust the process.
Are you planning for today or adapting for the future?
This is the AltaVista Angle. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the AltaVista Angle. We're here today. It's Aaron Hockel, Ray McLaughlin, Bryan Dunkel, Bryan Nichols, AltaVista Strategic Partners. We also have our Chief Operating Officer, Kendall Mason, joining us today. Before we dive into today's kind of episode and conversation, quick recap of our last episode where we were joined by Andrew Sachs of Mauna Capital. He gave us some great insights into private equity, buying a business, selling your business, and kind of what to expect through all of that. So before we jump into new things today, anybody have any big takeaways they thought of from the last episode?
Great episode. I think, a lot of the things that were talked about were very applicable for a lot of contractors out there that are looking to sell their business. One thing that, my wife's in construction and she struggles with one piece that you guys touched on in last week's podcast. What that was, the balance of working in the business versus working on the business. I was around back in the day when Ray sold McLaughlin Electric. And I know that was, as for me, that was one of the things that drew me to want to work with Ray, was that he really put a focus on working on rather than in, right? He wasn't an electrician. He was a marketer running an electrical contracting business. And to me, that I've never really forgotten that. And that's how we kind of run AltaVista as well. But Ray, a question for you, for our listeners, specifically contractors like my wife, right? What is the best kind of piece of advice that you could give to a business owner that's out there putting proposals on the street, that struggles with finding that balance of working in versus working on the business?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think Sachs even talked about that. He said, if you're not able to work on the business, you really just can be spinning your wheels. And I agree with him. And I think probably 95% of most contractors are probably spinning their wheels. So I really think it takes a concerted effort to find downtime in your day when you're a business owner. Well, it doesn't even matter if you're a salesperson or a business owner, right? Find downtime in your day. Spend that time thinking about, hey, this is what I need to do. I'm one of these 90-10 guys. You have to spend at least 10% working on your business. I actually work probably 90% on my business, not in the business. And that's a little different because we have a full management team here. But if somebody's working on the business, you're always growing and you're always able to focus on those growth plans. And I think that's something that is really learned behavior, because most people are trying to get the work done. They're trying to be a good teammate. So again, just spend some time. Spend some time on your drive home. Turn the radio off. Turn on the angle, though. Don't turn that off. And then once our episode's done, start thinking about working on your business. There's also a great, it's called the E-Myth, Michael Gerber. I think it's, I'd get the original. It's a little outdated in its technology, but he talks a lot about working on your business and not in your business. So it's really important that we do that.
It's cool. Bryan Dunkel, you were going to say something there. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I just thought that, obviously Andrew's very smart. And I think something that, I knew about, but the minority shareholder kind of investment firm, that they, that's the waters they play in. I don't think that's something a lot of people know about, especially, contractors, or people that would be listening to the angle, is that specific type of model, not a full-on takeover, not a full-on, gutting the business or cultural fits and things along those lines. So I thought that was really interesting, and something that I think a lot of our listeners would find interesting as well.
Yeah, just another point on that, and I think this is really impactful, is a lot of people didn't know you could even do that. Yeah. But it is a way to make the business stronger, because if you want to get out, you want to retire, that's not an option, right? But if you have a partner that wants to get out, or another owner who wants to get out, it really does help the business. And I think adding someone like Andrew, and I've known Andrew for years, but I've actually spent a lot of time with him. He's going to make your business better, and a lot of outside eyes and ears are going to make your business better. And so, if you're really looking to grow the business and you need capital, I think he's a great fit. If you want to sell the business, there's plenty of fits for selling the business, but it just gives a different look at it, different lens. And if you want to continue the success that you're doing, why would you sell?
Yeah.
Compounded earnings, annual compounding earnings of a small business, you cannot beat that. And another thing I'll piggyback on is PE loves contractors right now. And why is that? It's because they're pretty cheap in valuation. But if you look out at the secular trends of where the contractor is going to be in 5 years, there will be a shortage of contractors. And Sachs knows that, and every PE, they all know that. So the price for the service will go up substantially. So why would you sell that? You want to sell because you want to get out, right?
And Ray, you sold your business previously, right? And a question here is, how did you know it was time, right? And maybe you knew about the Sachs opportunity, or the Malaloa path of minority partnership and in capital injection, and maybe you didn't, but how did you know it was time?
Well, I've never said this publicly, but I will say it publicly today. I said there was 10 reasons why I sold my business. The reason I sold my business was in 2006, the froth in the economy was so unbelievable that I felt there would be a cataclysmic event that would sink this economy. And it was '08. And, I thought I was too late, quite frankly. I wanted out because I was worried about the economy. And I'd spent 15 years of my life building, a decent net worth, not retirement money, but I'm like, I could get taken out if this economy gets this bad. And that's why I got out in 2008. I sold on January 2nd, 2008 for a great fair deal, nothing spectacular, not retirement money. So that's why I got out. That the economy was changing, and I think if your situation is changing, that makes a lot of sense. If you're looking to take some chips off the table, put a little nest egg for your family, I think selling a piece of it makes a lot more sense.
Cool. Economy. Let's segue into that, right? Because I feel like on every episode we always dabble on the economy and sort of what we're seeing and what are the stats telling us. Ray, you're the resident expert on that one, so I'll kick it back to you, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Resident expert. I'm not gonna take that one. Yeah, again, I do follow the economy. I always have, actually. I've kept a little economic forecast, a quarterly economic forecast for the last 25 years of where I expect things to go. Not always right, but it's good to have a general feel. So we talked about the economy slowing. We had some, in the winter, I think it was a little dicey, and we heard from a lot of customers that it was dicey. But I know on the commercial side, we've really firmed up and stabilized. And I know that the AltaVista results on the commercial side have firmed up a bit. I still think the resi contractor is a bit challenged. I think we've definitely stabilized on that side. But look, the economy is slowing. GDP is at 1.5%. It was at 2.5% last year. We had some numbers come out today that showed a bit of a contraction in the economy. So I do think we're stabilizing here, and I think we're at a good spot. Stabilization is a good theme here. But again, when we get into the winter months and things get a little tougher, we'll see. And rates more than likely will come down in the next Fed meeting. That's really important. And I think if that's the case, that the Fed landed the plane. Just remember, guys, when the Fed raises interest rates, 9 out of 10 times they create a recession. And it's typically 18 months from the day that they raise interest rate that the recession starts. I don't know when they started raising rates, but I bet it's close to 18 months. So it is a slowdown. Hopefully it stabilizes here.
Cool. Yeah. And then anybody else got anything on the economy, things they've been hearing?
I mean, I could speak just anecdotally. I was in Detroit last week meeting with a few clients, and all our guys that do service, maintenance, right, that type of work, we always talk about it's somewhat insulated, right? The parking lots need to be paved, right? The landscape or the mowing at the property, right? So I know our clients there, they haven't really seen a slowdown on the maintenance side. Maybe some CapEx projects have been pushed, maybe early 2026. But again, we talk about that little bit of insulation. And again, I'm not an economist, just talking anecdotally from clients in Detroit.
Cool. Yeah. And what's interesting too is, were they talking about data centers at all?
Yeah, that's a big piece. I know that's something we're talking about. I know a lot of our clients, I mean, that's given a lot of our clients a big shot in the arm, is that data center push.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an
Cool.
estimation that the data center boom is contributing up to 20% of the US GDP right now. So
Mm.
imagine where we'd be without data center. And guys, look, they'll overbuild that. They always do. Who knows when it comes to an end, but they always overbuild. I don't think we're anywhere close to that.
Yeah, it was funny. Kendall and I were looking at a software the other day that had some projections on projects and pipelines and things that we were being built, and it was all industrial. And data centers were one of the categories. And I think it said like in the next 5 years, there's going to be $1 billion of construction, probably more in like the Washington, Baltimore, Virginia corridor. And it was like they're building 2 food processing plants and $990 million worth of data centers, right? It was like
Yeah.
Right.
everything is a data center and everything else.
Yeah, it
Mhm.
actually goes deeper than that though, because they're opening up old power plants. I just looked at a fund yesterday that I'll probably throw some money into, that they're going out and buying old power plant assets and restarting those power plants. That's another big piece of it, because there's not enough energy in the United States to power these data centers. And
Yeah.
look, one of the bigger concerns is obviously what your energy costs are going to look like. And will we be having brownouts because our kids are using ChatGPT to find out what they should wear to school today? You know, I mean, that's probably real. I mean, my
Yeah.
son's on ChatGPT, all day, every day. I will share, he got his diploma, and he kind of acknowledged ChatGPT should have been on that diploma. So hopefully nobody from University of
Co-branded.
Alabama is listening.
Yeah,
That's
right.
so
And Chat GPT, great segue, right? AI is on the forefront of everything. We kind of did a quick recap of last time, a quick state of the economy. AI is one of the things that we want to talk about. Kendall Mason is one of our resident kind of experts at AltaVista on AI, probably using it as much as anybody, if not more. Kendall, why don't you give us a kind of a quick intro of yourself, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks for having me, guys. I've been with AltaVista 12 years, which is pretty amazing, but I think one of the reasons why I'm kind of so focused on AI, right, is it's not only for the operational, day-to-day tasks that we're looking at, but also how do we help our clients, right? How do we keep them current? How do we make sure that, what we're doing from a marketing standpoint is really keeping up and saying, okay, are we at the forefront? Are we using everything available to us to make sure that, our customers are ahead, they're taking that next step?
Yeah, right. And you hear things like speed to lead, and you hear automation and process. You hear all these buzzwords, AI buzzword,
Sure.
ChatGPT buzzword, right? There's so many tools. There's so many things available to be slow out there. Give me an example of an idea or a tool or something, we can implement or help a client implement, right? Walk us through something like that.
Yeah, I think, one thing to really understand with all this, right? Automation itself is obviously not new, right? This is not new news to anybody, right? Henry Ford, going through how do we automate nonstop. I think what's different about it now is that small businesses, medium-sized businesses, they can take some of this technology that's been around and they can implement it in these micro examples of their everyday opportunity, right? I think, people are thinking, okay, autopilot versus copilot. And I think something to understand there is, okay, how can I use this as almost an assistant in my everyday work to do it better, do it faster, more effective in what we do versus, hey, what doesn't even need me to be involved? And I think that's kind of where we're at this transitional moment with AI is, some things where people are kind of using it. Like you said, I use it every single day in almost every task. What are some things that we no longer have to touch because it's 99.99% accurate?
What if we were to relate that to one of our clients' businesses, Kendall? Is there anything? I mean, I know you've never been a contractor, so I'll kind of help you out a little bit here. But
Sure.
they have this sales process that they've got to follow through. Maybe they need a better sales process, but proposal follow-ups and scheduling and things like that. Are there any things that kind of stand out to you there?
Yeah, I think all of those things you mentioned, right? I think, with follow-up, as good as salespeople are, right? Bryan Dunkel is the master of process, right? You can take someone who you then build, okay, I want to mimic Bryan Dunkel's process. And you have a sales leader who says, these are the 8 steps and this is how we implement them with the software very quickly, right? Versus, okay, that used to be a really arduous task to outline what are the 15 things that Bryan Dunkel does every month to make sure that he keeps that person on the line, versus, okay, this new rep who's only 6 months in is getting pinged, hey, do this, hey, do this. This is where you are in your process, and really keeping them, steady to goal in what that is. And I think, that's where a lot of our, customers can really see the advantage. Hey, this has not been touched in X amount of time. Here's an alert. Go get after it. We've already drafted the email for you, put eyes on it and then send it.
So, is some of it like here, we're processing. So, I'm going to contact this person. I'm going to call them. I'm going to email them. I'm going to do all these steps, right? It sounds to me like one of the AI tool there a little bit is, can I have it built to like automate and remind and prompt?
Mhm.
But could you also see it being, I'm going to eliminate this task for you, or I'm now going to do this task for you,
Yes.
right? So you see
Exactly
it
right.
in
Yeah, I
both?
think it's moving in that direction. I do think, you want to be cautious in how much you allow it to do for you, right? I think, it's really good at getting you started. It's almost like, having a really fast intern is a really good way to kind of say, hey, they're really good at getting you closer, a first draft, but where do you need to be involved and where do we have to have a human in the loop? And that's, when you're thinking about AI, you're thinking about building it so that you can eventually, as it gets really good and you train it, take out that human in the loop. So Aaron, exactly to your point is, you build it with guardrails and then you remove them as you get a level of comfort and you see a level of accuracy.
One of the things that I know Nichols and I have always banged this around, the proposal follow-up. A lot of our
Mhm.
clients don't, they say the rep will call them, right? My reps called, but did they leave a message? Did they really do the follow-up process? I think one of the easiest things for me would be build some type of automation around your proposal follow-up where you can see if they open the proposal, right? You can see where they engage. And AltaVista does this all the time. We can do this for the client, but I mean, they don't want to automate. And I think that's really where AI is right now, is in these automations. I know that's where we're using it. And just for point of reference, we're using AI every single day at AltaVista. We had a meeting we have an AI committee. We asked for updates on what we're using AI for. And we've done some really cool projects. I don't know if you guys heard about the one where we had a customer who had 9,000 parts and they needed to get shipping quotes for all 9,000 parts for their e-commerce site. And well, that would have taken us a year, right, to get accurate quotes. We did it with an AI engine and the client approved it in 24 hours. It was amazing.
Mhm.
And we did some testing and some sampling. You can't just accept that it's going to be right. That's the other thing, is AI is wrong a lot. So just make sure you're testing on the backside. If again,
Yeah.
even which engine to use, right? Because I mean, you can use different engines for certain things, and there's different specialties.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
And
I think that's a good point. I just want to interject there, Aaron, is,
Mm.
there's two different things. When you're looking at something that's definitive, right? And when you're using AI versus something that's really not so definitive and predictive in a way, that's when you're going to have some of the challenges. And I think that's where it's continuing to get better. But I'm sure you guys have all used ChatGPT or similar, where you ask it a question one day and then you get a totally different answer the next day, right? Depending on the kind of question you ask, right? However, if you use it for something that's definitive, an input, right? Oh, here are my costs. Please calculate X. That should be pretty definitive in how your answer comes back. So I think when you're thinking about accuracy levels, that's something important to note.
Yeah, and I think too, some of the thought here is to say you're using AI isn't going to Chat GPT and saying, make this email response sound better, or hey, how should I respond to this? Or, yes, that's using a tool. That's using the really fast assistant and the grammar and the everything kind of rolled into one, right? But I think what we're talking about here as an implementer is, and Kendall, correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe you can weigh in on this one too, is a little more analysis of what's going on. And then how do we build a tool or a process to increase efficiency, remove redundancy, eliminate manual task, things like that, right? That's really what we're talking about here, more so than, oh, I use ChatGPT to come up with a good sales email, right?
Exactly. Where it excels is like automating repetitive rule-based tasks, right? Okay, hey, after X, do Y. It's really good at that. I think, again, it used to be difficult because you have so many different things that you're trying to ingest and they may be structured different. Let's think of an invoice, for example. You could get a different structure of an invoice every day, but really it's a person looking at an invoice understands the invoice number, the cost of whatever it is, the date. Those are all things that may change that before when you did repetitive task automation, right? You would have to have the exact outline of what that looked like. Now you don't. It can say, hey, I generally need these 3 things, find them on that invoice for me. And that's where we've kind of hit that next level of it can ingest a ton of data and really look for whatever you're trying to identify in that process, where you might not have to have an AP person touch that in the next, month, 2 months, once you get this set up and you get a level of comfort.
Bryan and Bryan, you both seemed eager to say something there. So
appreciate it. I was just going to say, and Kendall kind of touched on it there too, is it's the repetitive tasks, right? Like Ray had mentioned, the proposal follow-up stuff that we've kicked around in the past. That's something that every contractor has to do every single day, no matter how many bids you have in the street, even if it's been on the street for 60, 90, 120 days, you still have to follow up. The job's not dead until you're told it's dead. And when you get into those kinds of things, it's a very repetitive process. It's picking up the phone, it's sending an email, it's making contact with the person. When you have those repetitive tasks like that, that's where AI can really be a huge help for you. And it's not just ABC Plumbing that has that process, right? It's XYZ Roofing as well. So all of these types of all of our customers are doing a very similar proposal follow-up process where it's the point, it's reaching out, it's staying, we've talked about it before, where you have to be consistent in your follow-up, and something like AI with it would be tremendous with that type of consistency with, as it's a repetitive type of task.
Let me interject real quick, because it sparks some thought here for me. I think we have to think differently about how we run our businesses. I mean, when we send out a proposal, we know that they've opened the proposal or they've opened the link, right? Do our contractors even know that? Like, think differently about how your whole process works. How do I digitize my process? So not only do I know that they received the quote, I know they opened it, and I know what they looked at, and I know how long they were in there, right? And these are all the things that you can do to evolve your process to be technologically elite to your competition. And if you're not doing it, you're missing the boat. We're doing it, and we have been doing it. And so if you ever get a call from AltaVista and there's a proposal in the street, and you're like, oh, I was just thinking about those guys. I opened up the link. Well, we knew you opened up the link. We called you.
Yeah,
there's a lot of things you could do. Sorry, the cat's out of the bag.
Ray, you're letting our secrets. You're giving out Bryan Dunkel and I. You're sharing our secrets, all of our secret sauce here.
Yep.
And what I was just going to say too is, and Ray kind of hit the nail on the head, where you're missing the boat if you're not applying this to your business. And that also goes into working on your business to understand where you have inefficiencies, where you can apply AI. I mean, look, every functionality of AI is not going to be applicable. But I look at it too, like my dad, last 2 episodes ago, he was in sales. And I look at AI as almost like when the internet started, when email came about. My dad was in sales. He had people that didn't want to use email when it first came out. They fell behind. It's that simple. So you almost look at it, like a parallel. If you're not using AI, to amplify your sales efforts or to simplify process or automation or, take out busy work, you're losing time, and that's the only currency we have here is time. So I think it's critically important, but again, you have to find the right fits, and that's something we can assist with as well.
Yeah, and I'm going to interject on that because I also saw the 99 internet evolution, and just remember, the internet was going to put car dealers out of business. The internet was going to put realtors out of business. None of that happened. What happened was the people that embraced the internet made a lot more money. And so at the end of the day, when you hear AI, everyone's sick of hearing it, right? AI this, AI that.
Mhm.
What it's going to do is make you more profitable. It's going to increase your net margin. It could increase your gross margin for us because we're hands-on computer. So it's going to improve our gross margin too. It's not going to improve your gross margin if you're out there twisting wrenches, more than likely,
Mhm.
except with the efficiencies. But at the end of the day, it's going to improve your margin, make your business better. That's what we're here to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Exactly.
We're seeing AI kind of come in everywhere here. Brian Nichols, you head up all the data team for AltaVista. AI data, you kind of really talk about data centers. You don't really hear one without hearing the other. They all kind of, you know what I mean? There's probably been some hype in that area too, right? Of data. What are you seeing? What are you hearing in that universe?
Yeah, and so when you talk data, with regards to what I do every day, it's we're talking about buyers of services, right? That's a data point for us. Nowadays, we have a lot of tools. We have a lot of AI tools. We have a lot of internet tools that we can use to help us get in front of these people a little bit quicker. That being said, as with any AI tool, like Kendall had mentioned before, you have to be careful. You have to be cautious. A lot of these tools are web crawlers. They will aggregate data off of the internet, and it can be wrong. They can look on LinkedIn profiles that are outdated. I can't tell you how many LinkedIn profiles I've seen where one of these tools is guessing in their email, and they haven't been at the company that these products are saying that they've been at since the 90s. And I'm not even exaggerating, right? We have people that have started these jobs in the 70s, and they haven't been there for 20 years, and it's sitting on this platform, and you're paying money to buy this data record, right? So
Yeah.
the accuracy piece is a big piece. And anytime you're talking about doing any type of marketing at scale, right? One misstep in accuracy is exponentially catastrophic for you, right? So you have to be careful with those records. You have to take care of those records. You have to understand that just because you're using one of these tools, it might not be accurate.
Yeah, well, I'll give a good accuracy story here from the very early days of AltaVista when we were attempting to help some clients get in front of the Marriott Corporation. And we found about 100 engineering and management style contacts, maybe more, that all worked for Marriott. And all of their last names were Nguyen, Nguyen. And they all worked at the corporate headquarters in Bethesda, Maryland. And so we said, oh, hey, yeah, you know what? So we started sending emails and outreach to all these guys. And eventually we found out that they all worked in Southeast Asia. Not a single one of them, we don't believe, really spoke English. So, we don't really get this, right? So this was 12, 13 years ago, but that's a very early AltaVista lesson. That might even predate Kendall Mason of, you start sending emails, hey, can I help you with roofing services at your hotel in DC? And they're in the Philippines. So,
Right.
that accuracy is a big part of it. And it's a perpetual challenge, not just today
Well,
in
and
the
that
AI climate, but it's been around forever, I think.
100%. And that's the next kind of point I was going to bring is it's once the accuracy is challenged, right? Then it's your outreach that becomes challenged. So with data inaccuracy, you're going to have issues with deliverability. You're going to have issues with inbox placement. You're going to have all these types of issues, with your domain, with your sender reputation, all of these types of things that you might not think about just because, you say, oh, I hit gold. I have 600 Marriott contacts or 600, CB Richard Ellis or whatever the company is. But if it's not accurate, it's going to affect your performance. So you have, like you said, you have to understand you have to understand the limitations in the tools. You have to understand the prospects. You have to understand the companies they work for, their geographic footprints, the titles of the buyers, all these different things before you just kind of point and click.
Yeah, let me interject because I think Bryan, in his normal fashion, is being too nice. I'll just cut to the chase. Is that there's a lot of scams out there, guys. I mean, I've looked at And what Aaron's referencing is AltaVista day one. We thought there was a shortcut to data aggregation. There was a company called data.com, which was light years ahead of anybody, except it was a peer-to-peer sharing data network. So the inaccuracies that were within that database almost put us out of business. And we're going back to 2011, and we aggregate data in a lot of different fashions. We use every tool out there. We use our own. We have our own proprietary technology too, which is really where we get our best information from. But it's ironic that I look at some of these other providers. No names will be mentioned, but two of them have been banned by LinkedIn.
Yep.
Because all they were doing was scraping LinkedIn profiles. And if anyone has used LinkedIn like AltaVista does, I mean, we're on LinkedIn 24 hours a day, trying to validate information. And I can tell you LinkedIn's accuracy, I'm not going to make a bold statement, but it's not 100%. I can tell you that right now. It might not even be 70%.
Yeah.
And if you have a database that's 75 to 85% accurate, you're actually doing pretty well. And so we spend $1 million a year on running our database, and there are no shortcuts. We aggregate information many different ways, and we use a lot of these tools. But one of my clients told me that he was going to use one of these tools and he didn't need me anymore. And that was fine because I really don't think he's the right client. But I did say, when you get blacklisted, feel free to call me back, because it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Email is not, I tell our clients, you want to say, email sounds really simple. But putting a roof on might be simple, but that's why roofers do it, because they're good at it. And, email marketing is really complex, and it can cause a lot of damage to your brand. So just be careful of these tools. There's a lot of false claims out there, and feel free to vet it and give us a call. I mean, I've shared the tools that I use, because you can't use them. It's no way you can run, there's no way you can run a database at 450,000 records unless you spend 70 hours a week on it. That's what we'd spend on it. We have 8 people that work on a database every single day, and we use AI within our database tools to help make it better. And again, that's where we're going to win. It's making the database better. So yeah, thanks, Bryan.
Yeah, it's a good update there. Other things with AI, any other cool tools, trends, things people are seeing, Ray, I know one thing we've talked about and has come up before is the data. AI needs data to operate. Kendall, if I get something wrong here, correct me for the audience, right? But
Sure.
The fundamental understanding is it's a software, it's a program, it's a tool, but it needs information, data to operate. So for it to give us the shipping info for 9,000 parts, we need to tell what the parts are, how much do they weigh, how big are they, right? It needs the information to operate. And so, to Bryan's commentary on data accuracy, if you wanted to use AI to send an email to 1,000 people, well, the emails better be accurate, right? And then you get into all the logistical tools, right? Other places where we're seeing any data challenges, information challenges, Ray, I know we talked about something where it's sort of like, are they going to gate this content? Is AI going to get access to the content, right? Like, how's that all working, right?
Yeah, that's actually a little bit disturbing. And I just want to, be fully candid with what's really going on, is that somebody was quoted on a podcast that I listened to, that if you have incredibly valuable content that is proprietary and unique, this is about 5 months ago, you should take it off the internet, because they're going to steal it from you. That disturbed me in many ways. In my belief, I felt like they'd have to quote their source, right? AI is going to have to quote the source. So if you're looking at a search that's more informative information, right? I want information. I think you're a bit challenged, because they can effectively take your information from you. And there was someone from the current administration was quoted as saying they don't want to put stops on this material. They don't want to make it so it slows down the evolution. And to your point, Aaron, it needs a database to learn. Now, Elon Musk claims he's not using the internet for his database anymore. Well, maybe they've already done all the scraping they need to do, and now the model's going to learn and learn and learn. But that it's going to be fed somehow. That information is going to be fed somehow. What I find interesting about, say, SEO for what our clients are, those are transactional searches. If we have a great content provider about, let's say, slate roofing, which is pretty much a dying service, right? There's not many people that do slate roof. But our customer is putting that content out there to get a slate roofing contract, not to inform and educate people. So if ChatGPT happens to take that, or any of the AI agents takes that content and promotes it, it would behoove them to provide the link to the person who produced the content so they could actually do a transaction. And so I am very optimistic that when it comes to transactional search with SEO, that our investment, and we're continuing to invest in it, because again, I think on our last episode, you talked about how many, we had 2 form submissions coming from ChatGPT. So, ChatGPT is not going to put the roof on your house. Somebody told me that they had great content and is a big organization. It's actually one of the biggest media companies in the world. Actually, my friend works there on the SEO team, and they are concerned about the information that's being taken from them. So it's a challenge. But as far as you're getting your brand out there, someone's got to put the roof on the house. Somebody to paint the house. Somebody's to paint the building, right? And that ChatGPT is not doing that.
Yeah. And if I can jump in, Aaron, real quick, I have a question for Kendall. So, obviously we talk about, ChatGPT or Gemini or Grok, right? And they're not going to take Google's place, obviously, in terms of search. But I was talking to a client, again, hypothetically, if someone's searching for the best elevator company in Denver, they put that in ChatGPT. Where typically are they sourcing that data, correct? Because it has to come from somewhere. ChatGPT isn't just snapping their fingers and it's magically coming, correct?
Yeah, exactly. It is the similar algorithm to what Google uses in that sense, where, they're pulling it from websites, they're pulling it from related articles, right? Where if you have multiple sources, listing that as it's going to then populate. So it is similar to how Google's original search worked. It's not different in that sense. I think it's just, making sure that the type of answers you provide are there, right? So, an example is like FAQs are really big now when people are asking those questions, like, who is the best, installer, or how do I do this? You're just trying to answer the questions in the way that the reader would then digest the information, because that's when it's going to populate that information, most consistently.
And the more coverage you have, we talked about Yelp reviews. I mean, Yelp was irrelevant 2 years ago. Yelp's becoming relevant. Why is Reddit stock skyrocketing? Well, Reddit's got to deal with ChatGPT. They're trying to get authentic content, but if you don't have the coverage of your brand, right? If you're not on the review sites you need to be on, if you're not on the social sites you need to be on, that's where they're sourcing this information from. It's critically important.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really is.
The one of my bold predictions is that, or I'll take it, bold prediction. Will there be ads in ChatGPT results?
100%.
Yeah. There's no way there's not.
I'm the only guy in the room old enough to have this dialogue, because when Google came out, it was free. And then one of my friends asked me why I wasn't on Facebook. I'm not going to say what I said but I don't trust them. And I knew they're going to steal all my data, right? And he's like, Ray, you don't understand Facebook. It's not about ads. It's about connecting with your friends. And I'm like, you are an absolute idiot. And that's how Facebook stock was $32 a share. It's $700 a share. And Zuckerberg's the 5th wealthiest guy in the world. And they're continuing to take your information. So yeah, there's going to be ads. Look, there might be a pay model, right? And just be a pay model for, hey, I'm going to pay a subscription fee to ChatGPT or Grok or Gemini. Another thing about Google, because Dunkel brought it up, anyone who thinks Google's out of this game, you're mistaken.
Yeah.
You are absolutely mistaken. Listen to anyone, and we're just moderates here. We're not experts. Listen to any expert. Gemini is getting better and better and better. ChatGPT's got a stronghold on a lot of search. Gemini is just very powerful, and there's going to be multiple winners. And while their volumes, their percentage of search is going to go down, the volumes are skyrocketing. I mean, what is search volumes up right now? They've got about 10x what they were. They're at least up 5x. So yeah, their share is going to go down.
Yep.
Don't count Google out. Anyone who counts Google out has not been around to see every time Google was going to be done. One of the better businesses in America, in the world.
I brought this up in an internal one where it was like, so ChatGPT is now the 5th most visited website in the world in August, according to a blog, right? Seems kind of fairly accurate here. Says 5.24 billion monthly visits in August of 2025. Sorry, I'm looking at my stats up here. YouTube is number 2 at 47 billion and Google's number 1 at 101 billion. So
Yeah.
so and they own both. And so they're getting 30x the visitors a month right now that ChatGPT is. So you just still think, so are they out of the game? Are they going to go? They're still 30x.
Yeah.
30x.
And $120 billion in cash, and the infrastructure. They have the greatest infrastructure in the data center of any company out there. And people aren't, that ChatGPT's infrastructure is nowhere near Google's infrastructure. Now, AWS certainly has a massive infrastructure too, but Google's infrastructure is insurmountable today. If it stopped today, they have probably, I'm not going to make a wager on where they are, but they're probably 30x some of their competitors in their infrastructure capacity.
Right. One thing to note too on this that I think is important is, the KPIs that, marketing companies look at, those are going to change. I think one thing that sets us apart, right, is, we understand at the end of the day that we want form submissions, right? We want opportunities, leads for our clients, right? Where a lot of people are really focused on these vanity metrics that, at the end of the day don't mean much, right? Like, did someone click and get their answer and get to your website? That's great. Did the AI overview give them that answer? But to Ray's point, is it transactional? They still navigate to the site and they still convert. That's what we're focused on, right? And that's what I think, is really critically important, as we understand our clients and, what their, as business owners, goals are, we stay connected to.
Yeah, I will talk on the KPIs, right? The SEO team, AltaVista, one of the things that we're starting to report is, keywords that can rank in the AI overview of Google's results, right? So some of our reporting tools that are all software driven using AI and all this other sort of stuff, right? One of the things they're now telling us is which of these keywords are likely to rank your website and put you into the AI overview, at least on Google, right? And so we're keeping an eye on that. And it goes to the point of vanity metrics and this and that. And so if you don't work with AltaVista and you're looking at your SEO report, it's like, well, hey guys, what kind of traffic am I getting from ChatGPT? Am I in the AI overview? What's going on here? What's going on there, right? And starting to ask some of those questions, because it's a fast moving train and people are going to blow by other people, right? That's my kind of take, right? The guys that figured out, to Bryan Dunkel's comment, email, or the building, they had the first great website with SEO in the 1999, right? Those people were able to just blow past other people, right? By being on top of it. And so I just think that that's kind of an interesting part of it too, right? Is like, what are you looking at?
Exactly
right.
right.
Yeah, that's great. I actually was thinking about, like, the car dealers were going out of business, right? So I know someone who did go out of business in 1999, well, a little bit later, 2002, and they didn't embrace technology, and they were kind of the old school dealer. And I know of a car dealer just sold for $1 billion.
Wow.
One of Maryland's largest car dealers. They probably own 30 different dealers, but they embraced everything about technology, still do. So yeah, I mean, embrace the technology. It's there to help you. And again, I think that's what we want to show and tell our clients, is that we can help with this, and we can keep you from getting yourself in trouble too, and not wasting some money on some things that aren't going to help. And then and where to start. I think where to start is the most important. Like, start with something small that can be impactful. Don't try to change your business in a nutshell in one day. Just start with something small. We're going to put automation in. We're going to figure this out. We're going to put a little better sales process in. It's going to be automated. And again, if you don't have these tools, or you don't have the IT stack, you got to invest a little bit in the IT stack.
Yeah. And that's actually a question I was going to ask Kendall, right? Like, hey, I'm listening to this and look, people hire AltaVista because what we do is foreign to them, the same way we hire a roofer, because I'm not going 30 feet in the air with a row of shingles and a nail gun, right? So, you hire people to do what they do well, and that's how how it works, right? So if I am listening to this and I was thinking, how do I implement something? How do I get started, right? Like, yeah, I could say just call AltaVista, but let's not be that simple with it. Like, what does the start look like for somebody?
Yeah, I think, the easiest start would be probably integrating, your Outlook, or your Gmail, whatever it is that you have on really, digesting some of your inbound emails and understanding those and even prompting you to say, okay, these are the replies and setting up what templates would look like for that. I think, that's a really low lift, so to speak. I will say though, I do, I know you said, hey, don't just give us a call. I do think just give us a call so we can talk through it. I think one of the things is an oversimplification of a lot of these things is, what the implementation really looks like and understanding the business requirements, right? Because I think it's easy to say, okay, we can write a reply to you, but how valuable is that to your day, right? Versus, hey, how do we make sure that all your communications are logged appropriately in your CRM? Are you using your CRM? Are you doing, all these different things that can make your business far better? But I think, unfortunately, when you get sold, any software, people don't really handhold you through the process, right? They set it up, they stand it up for you, but they don't understand how your business works and what are the items you really need to be cautious of or focus on. And I think, that's where we can add a lot of value in understanding, hey, these are how our best performing clients are utilizing these systems. And these are some things that we think you should implement and do kind of a crawl, walk, run model so that you're not overwhelmed in what that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else got anything on that one? Other thoughts?
No, but when we get off this pod, I'm going to have AI do a video generation of you actually putting carrying shingles up a ladder onto a roof, and we can share that. I think that'd be great.
Yeah,
I want a video of him going to the beach in Ocean City. I mean, he's there for a month.
Hey.
Yeah.
Did your foot touch the sand?
Oh yeah, for
It
sure.
did?
Bryan Dunkel was on the beach with me. We watched his son get plowed by a wave.
That's true.
He got thrown 10 feet.
Well, the
OCVP
OCVP was on the job, hopefully.
Yeah. They were there.
Good. That's good.
Yeah, I was gonna say the other AI use case is you can also have it make jingles and songs too. So Bryan, you can set the video of me shingling the roof to the theme song that Brian Nichols made, where I quit working at AltaVista to visit every Arby's in America. So we already have the music.
I was an early adapter of the music
to go with the shingle
AI
video
application.
By the way, right? So
I actually have something. It's funny because I always keep one of these handy. If you guys, if our clients didn't know, Aaron's he's a jet skier.
I'm an avid jet skier. Glad you have one.
This is literally, I swear, Aaron, this is in my portfolio, just sitting there staring at me. And if you're ever in Key West, Florida, you're going to see a lot of these pasted all over town. So, but yeah.
So anyone got anything else as we recap this episode of the AltaVista Angle?
Yeah, I know we talked about, kind of AI on the sales process too, which we wanted to touch on. To Kendall's point, I do think it's important to start small, right? And that can be as simple as, having, using some sort of AI tool to find the right prospect, right? And then you can use an AI tool to aggregate your prospects based on revenue, right? Then you can ask AI to write an intro email, right? Then from there, you can have a tool. This client opened up this email 4 times, right? To Ray's point, you call that prospect. Then you can rank your prospects based on how many opens they had on an email. So just little things like that can, your time is valuable, right? You want to make as many calls as possible, but you want to focus on the right calls first. And I think utilizing some AI process there can really be helpful. And then again, in meetings, right, the AI meeting notes, right, where they can transcribe your entire meeting, right? Then that takes out the guesswork of typing, taking notes down, typing them in, putting back in your CRM. Just stuff that can really automate process, make you move a little faster. And then obviously once you get a proposal, as we talked about the proposal follow-up, super easy stuff where, you don't need to get super in the weeds. You can just find the right tools that can amplify your current sales process. Again, you have to have a process first, but then once you figure that out, tools to amplify.
Yeah, and I think one thing that, and I love that, but I think if you don't have the tech stack, you
Yep.
have to have some tech in your org. And if you're not using your Salesforce or your HubSpot, you're killing yourself. And you probably shouldn't even start with AI. You've got to get all that information into your databases so you can then extract that information. So I can't stress that enough, because a lot of our clients don't even use their Salesforce or whatever CRM they're using to run their business. They're using it as a place that keeps a couple contact information. But all those touches logged in Salesforce, you could actually figure out, am I losing business with a particular client? Why are my numbers down with XYZ or ABC? So but on a more fun note, my son, who you guys know well, and maybe you've done some role play trainings with him on sales, starts cold calling today. So I was
There we
pretty pumped
go.
about that. And
Let's go.
he's excited. So he is probably as crazy as we all thought he was. He's super excited. And I don't know if you can hear him yet. But yeah, so I'm super excited for him. But I will say, like, what makes a great salesperson, I remember when I was his age, being excited. He's 22 years old. He's going to start on the phones today after 45 days of training. He was practicing every night, even with his father at 11 o'clock at night. You guys know me. I'm in bed by 9. So 11 o'clock at night, he said to me one day, he's like, I'm brain dead. I go, you're brain dead, dude? I'm done. I'm going to bed. But no, it's been a lot of fun. So hopefully you guys, Aaron, did you do any role playing with him?
I haven't. It's on my schedule for this week
Okay.
to
All
do
right.
it with him this
Yeah,
week.
go.
But
Let me
I
know. how it
also,
goes.
I know his mom also did some too, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sure that, you
Yeah,
know,
his mom's got a master's degree in English. So why shouldn't she help with the sales role play? But if I was sleeping, his mom would have to help him. So
yeah, that was awesome. Well, everybody, that's another episode of the AltaVista Angle. We appreciate you tuning in to listening, and we look forward to, doing another one soon.
Thanks,
great.
everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.